In the lawsuit, Sage alleges that she was retaliated against over comments she made about the company's vaccine mandate on Jay Cutler's podcast last September, violating both her contract and her right to speak freely. Sage will remain on air. Her contract is not up for a while. What Sage said was, I work for a company that mandates the vaccine, and I had until September 30th to get it done or I am out. I respect everyone's decision, I really do, but the mandate is sick and scary to me in many ways. I'm not surprised it got to this point, especially with Disney. I mean, a global company like that. So, Sage was benched by ESPN. Now, ESPN's saying she wasn't, but we all know she was. And then whether you call it a formal suspension or not, I don't know what you call it. But the ESPN would do things like this. If they got mad, well, we're going to take you off this game. Well, you know what? They got mad at me for something. Well, we're not going to do the podcast this week. Okay. She was benched by ESPN, she's saying in her lawsuit, and the company forced her to apologize. The lawsuit also alleges, in a knee-jerk reaction, ESPN and Disney relied on the misleading characterizations of her comments, bowed to groupthink, and forced Steele to publicly apologize and suspended her for a period of time, October 21st. Well, here's what they do. Like, when they get something that they don't like, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I simply on Twitter responded to somebody. I didn't read their bio, I just responded, and I used to use the term little fella. Hey, little fella, you should, instead of being mad on Twitter, you should donate to my organization. Here's the link. All right? That's about it. Quit being a little fella. Well, it turned out it was a little fella. It turned out it was like a 12-year-old or 10-year-old kid. But it was clear that the 12-year-old or 10-year-old kid that came at me initially didn't write it. It was written like a father. Why does Dakich always have to have his charitable works publicized? All right, long story short, so this daddy, lost his mind, right? His daddy called my office or my workplace. Daddy called ESPN, right? All right, and then the daddy tried to make a big deal about it. Well, I'm just a little kid. You insulted me. Okay, so I came on the air and I said, hey, look, what do you want me to tell you? I thought it was the dad. Don't read everyone's bio. Well, ESPN HR department called me. I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. I go, what are you talking about? Well, so when they called me about coming back to ESPN after my contract was up, they said, well, you insulted a 10-year-old. Like, no, I didn't. What they had done was they had responded to the groupthink of this parent. That got picked up by Dan Wolken at ESPN, and next thing you know, I had done something to a 10-year-old. Get out of here with that crap. And they didn't want to hear it, so I know exactly what Sage is doing here. The people that are above the person that is above you get into, well, we got to cover our backside. So she's exactly right. Now, I don't know whether she gets this lawsuit settled or not. I don't know whether she, whatever, but she's exactly right. This is exactly what happened to me with ESPN. When in my last conversation with a guy named Michael Schiffman, who's like the boss of the boss, well, you insulted it. No, I said, no, I didn't. I said, you want the tape of my show where I'm talking to a father? But of course, they don't want to hear that. And I said, look, you do whatever you want, but I'm not going to allow you to treat or paint me as a bad person, particularly with kids. I've done more for kids than anybody in this state, damn near. So anyway, she's exactly right. And when I tell you she's exactly right, I'm not telling you it's a friend. When I read this, I go, hey, there you go. The suit further alleges that ESPN disciplined Sage Steele based on inaccurate third-party accounts of Steele's comments, and that the network did not immediately review the actual comments or the context in which they were made. That is awesome. That is fantastic. That is 100% right. That, my friends, could not be more right. I guarantee you that this is 100% right. 1,000% right. I mean, I would bet you this is right today, tomorrow, the next day. Honest to God. Honest to God. This is exactly exactly how they do it at ESPN. I mean, exactly. I mean, could not have been more like this. They will take a third-party account, and away you go. Honest to God. It's the damnedest thing. It is the damnedest thing. I read this, and I go, this couldn't be more true. Well, you did that. No, did you actually see? Did you take the time? You know what I mean? I mean, it is absolutely the ESPN way. It's funny. I'm actually texting a guy right now. This has me a little bit hot, and when I get hot, I gotta, it's unbelievable. Anyway, so Sage Steele, I don't know if she's going to win. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, I don't, do I hope she wins? Yeah, because she's right. She ain't wrong here. While Steele would have been off air for a given point of time after testing positive for COVID, the suit says the company used the word sideline, taking a break to describe her on-air absence, and refers to these words as euphemisms for suspensions. The suit points to various stories in the press that referred to Steele as being suspended. ESPN did nothing to rebuke the widespread reports that it had suspended or otherwise disciplined Steele for her comments, both because those reports were true and because ESPN stood to benefit from the public perception that it had punished Steele. She was removed from assignments, New York Marathon, and the ESPN Women's Summit, ESPNW Women's Summit. Let me tell you about that. She started that whole thing, and two people at ESPN that are awful. Elle Duncan and that guy Michael Eaves. Horrible. They are the ones that said Sage Steele wasn't, quote, black enough. I love that she is standing up. I do. I love it. I think it's freaking great. I don't think it's kind of great. I think it's freaking great. Because somebody somewhere somehow needs to stand up, because that's what they do. They didn't read all her comments, and it didn't matter because it showed. Well, let me back up. She is a conservative, at least to the people in the media. So being a conservative made it very easy for them to go and discipline. Did they discipline Jalen Rose for lying on TV? Have they disciplined any of these guys that they trot out there that tell lies on ESPN? Any of them? Any? They're the guys that said that unarmed man got shot. No, the guy was armed. These people that get disciplined at ESPN are always the folks that are not left-leaning crazy people. Liars. Divisive. It's always that way. Did they do one thing? Has Jalen Rose been off one time? Any of these guys that have come, read Bobby Burak. None of these peoples that have lied on ESPN, none of them have ever been disciplined except Sage Steele. Sage Steele gets disciplined not because she did anything wrong, not because she was overly critical of the company. She got disciplined because it was easy to discipline a right or conservative leaning person, period. Period. And let me also add to that. And because Sage Steele could easily have been bullied by a media, she's an African-American woman. All right? You can't bully an African-American woman in this day and age. But you can if you remember I talked about test balloons? ESPN, companies like that, they put up a test balloon. Sage Steele showed that she would be criticized and you could get away with it by the mainstream media for her views. That's the test balloon. Sage Steele then became a target and she got suspended, and any of these guys that stands up there and tells you she wasn't are totally full of crap. This lawsuit, after reading it, is 1,000% the way business is done there, and don't at me about it.